I'm Josh, welcome to a new video, and today I'll be doing a recap of the albums I listened to in June. At first I thought there were not going to be many, but it ended up being a very decent month. And as promised, I'm gonna start with Ethiops by Billy Woods, which, as I said in the past recap, I had to digest my thoughts on it before giving them, and I think it's among the most interesting, different hip-hop listens I've had this year. Because the beats, a big portion of them, are quite unconventional, exploring and expanding what modern hip-hop can do. Cause while he may not be a super well-known guy, albums like this can have a very big impact on what underground and mainstream artists do, bringing new sounds to the table. I wouldn't be surprised if a couple years from now we start seeing new projects or artists influenced by this album. Cause Ethiops, and without trying to sound pretentious, is one of the albums you listen to when you really are into, love, or care about a genre. It's not meant for the charts, you know, it's made for the love of hip-hop in this case. Super interesting, though now I don't think it actually belongs to the standout club, cause I don't think I loved it or was impressed enough to be a part of it. Still, great one that I definitely recommend if you want to check something different. And the next album is Stranger in the Alps by Phoebe Bridgers. There's something I love about Phoebe's music, and that's how warm it feels to the heart, to the soul. It's even healing. I swear, listening to her music late at night after a tiring day gives me an energy very few other artists give me. Cause it's so soothing, calm, and pretty at the same time. Most of her songs have a carefully constructed ambient. Every instrument or addition is thought and mixed in a way that it doesn't take you out of the experience, instead helping you dive more into it. One example I found very interesting was when the drums join in Scott Street. Till that point the song has been mostly an acoustic one, but the songs incorporate in such a natural, smooth way. Also, the song's talking about someone playing the drums in that part, so there was definitely thought behind it, and I love to see that. Also, Phoebe is a fantastic singer with such a pretty voice. I cannot get tired of it because it's so pleasant. And I think she sings with a very good knowledge of what she's doing for the song or a moment on it, delivering exactly what it needs. No more than that, no less either, while also using backing vocals or effects with cleverness to boost and make the main voice more powerful. Interesting or pretty where it's needed. One where you can see everything I've said is Smoke Signals. That's a simple, well-constructed song that offers a super nice experience. I think her albums are really cool cause there's effort behind it and it really pays out. My favorite song on this one may be Scott Street. Second album I listened to this month was Pure Heroine by Lorde. I really enjoyed this album. Out of the 10 songs it has, I gave a heart to 7, which is a very good number. The aspect I liked the most was Lorde's vocals, both the lead and backing ones. Together they have a rich, powerful feeling, where there's always a balance between them to make them work. I like a lot the way the backing vocals support the main ones. Instrumentally, it was also really nice. I definitely like it, but I find really interesting the impact this album had on the trends the next year and a half of mainstream music would follow, with how huge singles like Team and Royals were, which by the way I enjoyed more than ever while listening to this album. And I do think they had a lot of influence on the stuff that will follow, especially in 2014. There were some moments that reminded me of 1989 by Taylor Swift, an album that came after this one, so it makes me think that Taylor listened to this album and probably was like, ooh, that's a nice sound, that's a nice idea, and brought them to her music. I find amazing that at such a young age, Lorde had such an impact on the music of the moment. And it definitely is a very representative record of 2013. I felt like I was in a mall playing Angry Birds in my iPod while waiting for mom in a store. It was a nice throwback in time, and I felt it was way longer than it really is. But because of how much I was enjoying it, it was so cool. I think it was the album from Lorde I enjoyed the most, and my favorite song on it was Royals. Next we have an Empty Bliss Beyond This World by The Caretaker, and I'm legitimately impressed by this album. It's built around the concept of a person with Alzheimer's trying to remember their past, and I think that idea was executed in a magnificent way. First, the music it samples. Yeah, it's no secret that this kind of 30s, 40s ballroom music is incredibly melancholic. It has a very unique ability to make you feel nostalgic even if it's your first time listening to it. That's an aspect this record will use a lot. The first songs on it are all very pretty. You know, like the patient is remembering nice memories from their past they have really clear in their head. But as the album progresses, through the effects, it starts to lose this clarity. Sometimes it gets really lost to the point where it feels like there's lagoons in between. And that's where it gets heartbreaking, sad, and even tough. Cause the effects used are not only effective in making the music feel like distant memories, but they also give physical feelings. In some parts you'll feel like there's something going through your head, which I think helps a lot to build the whole experience. A fantastic one. This record is easily one of the most special, unique, outstanding listens I've ever had. Whether you're listening to it in the background or actually listening to it, I think it will have an impact on you, because there's no way to avoid it. So I really recommend it once again. It will make you question what you're listening, what you're feeling. It's brilliant. And next we have Channel Orange by Frank Ocean, and I had a great time listening to this record. I can confirm now that Frank has amazing albums. This is a very pretty one where Frank shows beautiful singing in almost every song. They are so pleasing to listen, and besides, production on this album is amazing. Take a look at Sweet Life, for example. His voice along with the instrumental sounds so clean. It's so freaking good. Which I'm incredibly thankful for, cause Frank has such a beautiful voice. It's a gift being able to listen to it in this way. But no, for real, it's crazy, the way nothing ever gets lost in the mix. Crack rock is another good example, cause the drums are hitting the crash cymbals all the time. They don't sound noisy, they're on point, allowing you to enjoy everything that's happening. This album is a masterclass on production. I was blown away by it, and I'll probably keep it as a reference cause wow. I enjoyed this album a lot. I really liked it, and I'm sure it's gonna grow a lot on me with time. We'll see how that goes, but God, I'm loving Frank Ocean so much. My favorite song on it, probably Sweet Life. Such a pretty song in every single sense. That little keyboard, the piano, bass, and Frank singing in the chorus, it's gorgeous. Next we have Wonder by Shawn Mendes. You know, I wasn't expecting much from it, but it ended up being a very enjoyable listen. There were some low points, but overall I liked a decent portion of it. Dream and Song for One, for example. I think they were very interesting as well as really pretty songs. Honestly, the second half of this album, I liked it quite a bit. I find cool that he changed a little bit his sound. He brought some fresh elements that work excellent. Even though the production is not that good, it's evident he's trying to do something new and break away from the repetitive pop formulas he had been using in previous work. For that, I appreciate this record, and I'm really looking forward for a new project of him. I mean, I think people forget he got ultra famous at 16. He's got plenty of time to develop, and I think he's doing that. I have big hopes for whatever he does next. Favorite song? Wonder. Next album we have is Titanic Rising by Wise Blood. This album was just way too good. So good that I'm planning on doing a whole formal review of it. So you'll see that in a couple weeks. For now, all I can say is I'm mesmerized by this album. It's on the top 3 albums I've liked the most this year. It's an instant member of the Stand Up Club, but we'll talk more about it in the future. Oh, and talking about the Stand Up Club, we have Super 8 by Conan Gray. You can go watch the review I did, but in short, I'm loving it, and it's definitely going to be the soundtrack of my July vacations. It's wonderful, and it definitely shows him growing as an artist, as a singer especially. My favorite song on it is Astronomy. We're getting to the end, and the next album we have is Vinyl Days by Logic. I gotta say, I was surprised by this album. I had never listened to a single Logic song before. I mean, it didn't really call my attention and his projects are kinda long, so yeah. But I do have seen some interviews from him, and I think he's very likable, passionate about what he does. So when he announced this album, I started considering giving it a listen. Also, I liked a lot the cover art of it, and it was one I wanted to have in my library. When it came out, people were talking very positively about it, so I went to give it a listen, and I'll be another one to say this album is really good. Well, I can't remember much about each specific song. It's 30 songs long and I've only listened to it once. I think Logic created a really good album with awesome beats like the ones in La Donta, 10 Years or Porta One, amazing performances and production in songs like Bleed It, and incredible features among which you can find Wiz Khalifa, Risa from the Wu-Tang, and Netsi Mamadou. Actually, I didn't know Logic was this good of a rapper. I think he has quite a good ability, and I was impressed in almost every song by it. Quite a nice flow. In I Guess I'm Loving It, for example, I was vibing to him. And in Breath Control or Black White Boy, he's spitting, but he does it with such a clarity. I'll definitely give more listens to this album in a future because it's one I really liked. It's not usual that an album this long ends up being so consistent and enjoyable. I'm impressed, hoping that Logic keeps the streak with whatever he does next. Next album we have is Viaje by Ricardo Arjona. Okay, my mother is the biggest fan of him to ever exist. Like, he is the only artist she listens to. So since I was born, I've been surrounded by his music, and I like it a lot. But especially after a new album release, she will play it all the time in the car. That was the case for this one in 2014, and it's funny when a song gets to a certain section and I realize I not only have heard it, but I also know it. It's really fun. But talking about the album, I think it's definitely a good one. There's many songs I like a lot. Nube de Luz, Apnea, Viaje, Lo Poco Que Tengo. I love those, but my favorite one is Araluna en Bicicleta. The way he built the energy of this song, constantly building up, was exceptional. Starting with the piano and strings for the drums and guitars to join later in an excellent way. We'll say it's one of his best songs in the past years. The only thing about this record is that it gets a little long, and the production is not the best. Still, I had a good time listening to it. And as always, the albums I don't have much to say about. Canción Animal by Soda Stereo, Killing Is My Business and Business Is Good by Megadeth, Fallen by Evanescence, How to Friend Love Freefall by Rainbow Kitten Surprise. Oh, and I forgot to mention Drake's Honestly Nevermind, which honestly sucked. As well as these mini K-pop albums, as they like to call them, which were mostly decent. I especially liked the one from 3A. That one was definitely cool. And the last album of the month was Strange Love by The Solarists. Well, this is almost an EP, but I'll count it because I want to talk about it. It was recommended to me by one of the best friends I've made in college, along with a long list of more albums for me to listen, so you'll keep seeing some of those in the next videos. But this one was actually a surprisingly nice listen. Surprising because I wasn't expecting it to hit so hard. Especially the song Strange Love. There's something about the melody on it, the progression, that hit my weak spot. I felt like I wanted to cry, and while I tend to cry with some frequency to music, I haven't felt like crying so strongly on a first listen in a while. What makes it even funnier is that the song's not even sad or anything at all. It's actually kind of upbeat. It's an energetic song, I don't know. Something beautiful happened. Maybe I was just liking it a lot. It's part of the beauty of music, and that was my favorite song of the record for sure. That was definitely my favorite song on it, but it was a record I enjoyed a lot. I also forgot to mention the members of the Sound Club. I was paying a lot of attention, as you can notice. I'll put them over here. This was a really decent month. I listened to 21 albums, and I'm really happy with it. So yeah, as always, I hope you enjoyed watching. If you did, leave a like and subscribe. Don't forget to check my first album, Dine if you haven't yet. It's available everywhere, but you'll have the Spotify link in the description for you to go check it. I'd really appreciate it if you do. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. I've been waiting for years, hoping there's still a chance that you'll come visiting someday. Don't care if the cars are rusty, the wall is black, you can still pretend it's fun to live.